I was one of those kids that, as a little girl, they were called bossy. You know, that's an insult that we throw at little
We
girls.
have leadership
You have
skills.
leadership skills.
Yes.
Exactly.
Hello, and welcome to Valley Girls, the bi-weekly podcast exploring everything there is to see, do, try, eat, and experience in New York's Hudson Valley by talking to the makers, the doers, the growers, the creators, and all the unique voices of the Hudson Valley. I'm Jenny Leifer.
And I'm Jennifer Santiago, and together as the Valley Girls, we're telling the Hudson Valley story one episode at a time. We're so happy you're here.
Welcome to Season 4 of Valley Girls. We're so pleased to kick off the new season with an old friend. The last time you heard from Betsy Jacks, Brett Barry and I were visiting her at the Thomas Cole National Historic Site in Catskill, where she was the director for over 20 years. Since then, she's made some big changes. Jen and Betsy recently chatted about Betsy's new chapter.
I'm painting full time, and it is such a long time coming, and I feel like I have to pinch myself. It's so great. I have to just get up and paint every day, really. I mean, it's just awesome. I've been painting my whole life. I've been a painter my whole life, but to do it actually full time as a job, show up every morning, paint all day, it's amazing. I love
I
it.
mean, that sounds dreamy.
It's dreamy.
So you had a big job. I mean, for 20 years you were the executive director at the Thomas Cole site. So how did you balance running a whole site like that with your art? Did you just squeeze the painting in when you had energy left over?
I just told myself that I can have it all. I just can't have it all at once. So it's like I have to divide my life into chapters in order to do things well. Otherwise, I felt like I'm going to do everything badly.
Yeah.
And in the middle of all that too, I had two kids. And so between full-time job, two kids, it's like that I'm maxed out. So more than maxed for a while, as anyone who's attempted kids will know. And so I painted before coming to the Thomas Cole site, and then I just put it on the back burner while I focused my creative energies at the Thomas Cole site. So
Hmm.
that was the answer. I mean, every so often when my kids were making paintings, I would make one with them, but it wasn't very often. And I missed it. And there's a part of me that was buried and shoved down in a little corner, like, you just wait. But I'm letting that monster out now.
So tell us a little bit more specifically about your art. I am curious to know, obviously, your art will evolve over your life, but how you and your art, your painting was influenced, if it was, by all your time with Thomas Cole and spending all that time with the Hudson River School painting. How has that influenced your own work?
Yeah, I say Thomas Cole has taken up permanent residence in my brain now. I lived with him. So as much as anyone can live with a dead person, but I was in his home probably probably longer than he was, if you think about it. I mean, he was living there from 1836 to 1848. So that's 12 years. And I was there 21 years. And I was there night and day. It was a really crazy full-time passion. So yeah, I mean, I lived with that view that he had out from the porch of the Catskill Mountains, the studios where he painted, they were in shambles. So I had to learn all the intricacies of the whole building structure to help with get the restoration going and rebuild them. I mean, and think about the number of Thomas Cole lectures I went to over that period. I mean, we had like four or five a year for 21 years. That's over 100 lectures, right? If I'm doing the math right. So it was a lot. And luckily, he's a fascinating guy. And there's this great Cole scholar, Barbara Novak, who kind of started the whole idea of studying American art in the 1960s, said, we still haven't got to the bottom of Thomas Cole. And there are so many more theses remaining to be written about him. So he really is a complicated guy. So as far as my influence, I think that the number one thing is that He was really using nature and trees and all the elements of nature to try to get us, try to get a message across, try to tell us that this is in danger of being lost. And so the trees themselves are kind of expressing this anguish about being, persecuted. And they're expressing the whole landscape's desire to survive and this persecution. And it's so moving and so relevant.
Yeah, more now so even than during his time. Could you imagine what
I
he would think
know.
about climate change?
I know he didn't even have any idea that that was already happening, beginning to happen in his time when the Industrial Revolution was getting started. But so he was concerned about what he could see, which was that the forests were just being totally clear cut for various industrial purposes. And then the streams were being polluted, and then the fish were dying. And he was just like, how could people be so callous? How could this be happening? It's really incomprehensible.
Hmm.
Which
Yes, you have some very glorious paintings right behind you. Are those your works?
they are. I decided, you know what? We're going to put some up behind me.
Absolutely. Are they birch trees?
They are apple trees, and
Oh.
people think they are, sycamores or anything else. But the reason is because I blow them up, first of all.
Hmm.
Apple
Hmm.
trees you think of as being this big around, and they're
Hmm.
like person sized, but that's on purpose. I make them more like the size of a torso. And then I really get into the bark and pull out all the colors that are in there. This one is full of pinks. Those were all there in the trunk, and this one was full of purples. And so, yeah, the apple trees are especially speaking to me right now.
I love that. And it's funny, not that you are, necessarily a disciple of Thomas Cole, but certainly inspired by him. And his works are often the really wide angle landscape where you see the
Hmm.
whole valley and the mountains. And then yours is kind of the opposite, where you're doing this really deep dive, zooming in on just a small portion of one of the trees and capturing all of that detail and the gradations of color in the bark. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it's funny that with Thomas Cole's paintings, I tend to look at them this way, which is that I get up my nose right up close to them and I'll look at a detail.
Well, you're allowed. The rest
I
of us,
know,
the
right?
docent would tell us to back off.
The privileges of working there. And we also, when I was there, created a website where you can blow up Thomas Cole's paintings
Mm,
so that you can see the paint strokes.
wow.
And so, yeah, that's still online at explorethomascole.org because I think everyone should be able to get their nose right up to the painting. I mean, the detail in there, we in the parlor of the Thomas Cole house, the one of the two parlors, we installed this video installation where it looks like the paintings on the walls come to life. I don't know if
Mm,
you remember that from your visit.
yeah.
And so a painting that in real life is like 5 feet across, we made it 21 feet across. Like we just blew this thing right up. And so you can really see, I mean, they just look as crisp and as beautiful at that size than they did at the original because he put so much detail in there. So I tend to get my nose right up to the painting and look at them like these. Like I look at
Hmm.
the actual tree in his paintings. Those trees are the main characters of his story.
Mm.
We also asked Betsy what makes the Hudson Valley such a special and compelling place for art and artists.
The Hudson Valley, I was thinking about it. It's like a perfect storm. I mean, there are lots of beautiful places. It's just that this has the perfect combination of, first of all, that there is the natural beauty, right? Like it's gorgeous because we have mountains, water, abundant water, rivers, the whole rolling landscape. It's stunningly beautiful. But more than that, it has this access from the city, and it seems like a sort of an obvious thing, but if you think about that from history, that shaped the whole development of this area because it was a smooth highway to the beauty from the sort of population center. And so Thomas Cole was able to come up very easily. There were no roads, so you needed a river just to get places. And so it allowed this development into towns and farms as opposed to suburban sprawl, which is what happened in most of the 20th century. So because it had this access, it developed in a way that has towns and farmland And that's been preserved, luckily for us, through these organizations like Scenic Hudson and Open
Mm.
Space Institute, so they kept that. And now that structure where we have these villages and towns creates gathering spaces, communities. So we have main streets and we have shop fronts and we have pedestrian activity and we have restaurants with cafes right on the side, and so then people talk and people meet and you run into people accidentally instead of having to set it up. So that creates this community and communication. And so it like has this all these perfect elements that I think it's very rare to have all that. So we're just extraordinarily lucky. And it's not too close to the city, so
Mm.
it's not a bedroom community. Instead, it encourages people to really settle in here and make a life. And then people who do need to go to the city, maybe occasionally, those are the creative people, So it's really unique, and I'm just feel so fortunate it exists.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I'm thinking of all the just the great little main streets from Beacon to Socrates, just so many places where you can wander. And the thing that's really heartening to me is to go someplace like Beacon or Socrates and still see all the little independent places. You're
Yeah,
not wandering through like Rite Aids and CVS.
yeah,
And I mean, not that we need those too. There's a place
right.
for those, but
But
not on the main street. So I love where you can wander in and the owner is there in her shop and she will tell you her story. So that does make it really
I
special.
know, and now I didn't even mention that because I'm so used to it, but it's true you go other places and that is definitely not the case. But like the city of Hudson, the village of Catskill,
Hmm.
they are every single shop is different. And every single one you will never find somewhere else. And as you say, the person who's doing it is right there. Someone who just makes, these beautiful shoes, or someone who's making candles and soaps out of goat cheese or something like, I mean, it's just so extraordinary. Like everyone's doing something different. And someone who finds all of these little handmade glass items or makes jewelry out of discarded wire. And it's like every single one is a discovery and a creative enterprise.
Yeah, we are very lucky.
Yeah.
We're so excited to kick off season 4 of Valley Girls podcast with some amazing news. This whole season is proudly sponsored by Bryant Home Improvement. At the forefront of the Hudson Valley home improvement scene, Matt Bryant of Bryant Home Improvement brings everything from quick fixes to full luxury renovations to life. Just like us, they're all about keeping it local, keeping it real, and making our valley shine.
Hey Hudson Valley! Whether your home needs a little love or a full glow up, we've got you covered. From quick fixes to full room renovations and everything in between, Bryant Home Improvement delivers top tier solutions with precision and reliability right here in your backyard. With over 20 years of luxury home building experience, we're all about quality, efficiency, and that local touch that makes the Hudson Valley so special. So if you're dreaming of upgrades as bold as the Catskills or as timeless as the Hudson River, let's make it happen. Your home, our craft. Let's build something beautiful together. Visit us online at bryantHomeImprovement.com.
You had a very long career working in the arts and working for other people in a sense. And so now you are doing your own thing. Does it feel like just the natural progression of where you thought your career would go, or does this kind of feel like you're reinventing yourself? I know you said you feel like you have to pinch yourself because you get to wake up and just paint as your job every day, but do you also has that been a real mindset shift of you having to kind of develop new habits and see yourself in a new way?
I mean, yes to all of that. It's both a progression of my life up to this point and a new invention. But gosh, I mean, there's so much I could say. As far as sort of being in charge of my own schedule, luckily that has been the case for me for quite some time, being the director. So I do like assessing a situation and coming up with the big solutions. And so I'm comfortable with that. And I loved being at the Thomas Cole site for all those years. And the staff are just some of the most incredible people on earth. And I miss them so much. But I also really love to be now working for myself instead of for an organization and building up what I love without as many constraints. It's oh gosh, it's really thrilling. One of the things that I feel like I want to say with my paintings is that women, I want to contradict this idea that like women sort of become barren or women become like dried up or women like there's so many bad words that we use for women who are my age and older. And I'm in my mid 50s and I feel like I'm just getting started. And so like part of the paintings that I'm doing are these wrinkled, hardened trees that are like cracked. And if that were skin, we'd be horrified. And they are just bursting with life. And they've got apples and they've got flowers, and they produce more and more as they get older. So I think that this narrative we have about thankfully not universal narrative, but quite dominant about women in this phase of life where they fade back and they go home. What is that? That is a false narrative.
And we do not have to internalize that. I
No.
love that because Jenny and I both turned 50 this year. And we also feel like we're just getting started. I mean, we're just starting to figure out a lot of stuff that, of course, we're like, God, I wish I would have realized this when I was 25, but we didn't. But we're still here now. And so I absolutely agree. That is a beautiful sentiment.
Yeah, the artist Kiki Smith, who's become a friend of mine through the shows at the Thomas Cole site, we were having dinner one night and she said, I feel like menopause is I'm paraphrasing here, but is finally breaking free of these hormones that grip you. Like you can be a free person before, and then the hormones take over your body for several decades, and then you're free again to just be a person. So it's like the opposite of the narrative we're told. The hormones finally leaving your body is like, woohoo, now I can be a human. I don't have to,
Yeah.
it's a relief. It's great.
Yes. Well, and we do not have societal narratives about it being liberating in that way.
No.
So that's really important to have that messaging. I do feel like the dialogue around menopause is starting to change with us Gen X women being like, you know what? We're not going to just accept that. We're not going to just be like, okay, we'll just go home and knit a blanket in our rocking chair.
Yeah,
So there's
because we're
definitely a
not,
lot more conversation around it, and that's
yeah.
been encouraging to see.
It was all, not surprisingly, told from the male point of view. Like,
Hmm.
oh, women are no longer useful to us,
Right.
so they're no longer useful to anyone.
Right.
It's like, well, actually, we have lives that don't revolve around our usefulness to men, like newsflash.
Yeah.
It's, it's really something that I'm trying to communicate in my paintings as well.
I love that.
That was so much fun to listen to. And as much as I am really sorry that I wasn't able to be there for the actual live conversation, listening to it as an outsider was just, I loved it so much, just being able to be a listener to a podcast. But I love her whole perception of how her paintings relate to the status of women. And we look at trees and they're wrinkled and the bark is falling off and we're like, wow, how beautiful nature really is, right? But we don't so much do that in society with women. So I just really, I'm so excited for Betsy. I am so excited for this journey she's on with her painting and her personal journey with art. She has done so many beautiful things with the Thomas Cole Historic Site, and I'm just super excited for her that now she's on this independent journey of hers.
Yeah, we always joke around about the Valley Girls Mafia and how once you come on an episode once, you have to be our friend forever. But it really is so cool to have a favorite guest back like that to hear about her latest evolution. And yeah, her whole point about looking at the trees in her beautiful painting and how they're gnarled and withered and old, but no one's saying, God, that's so ugly, that's so repulsive, we don't need to see that stage of life. People just saying, wow, that's such a different, beautiful angle. It made me think about what we've talked about a lot of times about like negative self-talk. I think we talked about this especially in our self-care episode, how a lot of times we engage in negative self-talk and mean thoughts about ourselves. And I always try to catch myself and say, would I say that to Jenny? Would I even think that about Jenny? And of course, no. So why is it okay to treat myself like that? And that just kind of reminded me of, things can be flawed or older or less than perfect, but they can still be really beautiful, and we can reframe our perceptions of that. And that's a good reminder.
Absolutely. And as much as the big picture is always great as a snapshot, I also really love the concept of doing a deeper dive and digging in so close up to really see the beauty in something, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we need that perspective of this broad perspective of the big picture, but sometimes the more nitty-gritty, the more you really look into something, you just really see how beautiful it is. So love it. This was a wonderful way to kick off season 4. We hope you all had an amazing summer, just getting out there doing your thing, and we are so glad to be back with you all. So hope you enjoyed our first episode of season 4.
Lots more good stuff to come. Thanks for being here.
Thank you to everyone for listening. Please like and subscribe, rate and review, because as we know, it all helps tremendously. Do you love the Valley Girls? Tell a friend. Have ideas for the podcast? Tell us. The easiest way to chat with us is our Facebook group, Valley Girls Podcast Pod Squad, or you can contact us through our website, valleygirlspodcast.com, where you can also sign up for our newsletter so you never miss a thing. And of course, we're on Instagram at valleygirlspodny. We can't wait to hear from you. Oh, and do you love our theme music as much as we do? The music for this episode is by Robert Burke Warren, entitled Painting a Vast Blue Sky, and can be found on his album Redheaded Friend, available on iTunes and Spotify, and at the link in the show notes. Bye for now.